Sometime not long ago, bond wizard Bill Gross had an epiphany. Modern finance, he said to himself, is not God's work. If anything, it's a fraud perpetrated on the public by the bankers, traders, and policymakers who control the world's supply of money. Gross calls it the devil's bargain, and when he shared his thoughts with the world earlier this week, they hit Wall Street like a punch in the gut. We know someone else who's questioned the ethics of finance and come to some different conclusions. Our regular contributor, Terry Keeley, who lectures on financial ethics at Notre Dame University and founded the Financial Hippocratic Oath movement. So people are wondering, Terry, has Bill Gross gone and lost the plot, or has he actually got something here?
Well, I'm not going to comment on Bill Gross's losing plots, but I will tell you, I think he's done a great service, Eric, by shining a light in the dark corners of finance and ethics. People of his stature speaking out on this topic is very, very helpful. Unfortunately, I think his prescription for the problem is incorrect.
Where does he go wrong?
A lot of places. So, for example, in recounting the causes of the financial crisis, he quotes Paul Volcker in saying that the only good financial innovation of the past generation has been the ATM. The truth of the matter is there have been a lot of very good innovations. Securitization is a good innovation. Subprime mortgages are not in themselves bad. How they were applied by certain individuals was wrong.
Well, he sort of gets to that, though.
He does. He does, to his credit. What he fails to do, though, and here I'm sure he knows he's opened himself up to calling the kettle black criticism, is admitting that PIMCO itself, these are his words, not mine, is mammonesque. That PIMCO has the odor of mammon.
Okay, but PIMCO as a proxy for the rest of Wall Street, when he says, and I quote Bill Gross, as a profession, we have failed miserably at our primary function, the efficient and productive allocation of capital. Is he wrong?
No, he's right. He's absolutely right. As a profession, we have failed. The curious thing is, what do we need to do about that? What we do not need to do about that is throw out capitalism whole scale, is regulate the industry from above. We need to re-regulate the industry from within, Eric, which is the heart and soul of the Financial Hippocratic Oath, and an opportunity that Bill Gross himself has missed out on.
Okay. He also says this country desperately requires a rebalancing of priorities. You and I have talked so many times. You can't possibly disagree with that.
Completely agree with him. And you know where we saw a great example of that recently? Gilgamesh, the pitcher from Kansas City Royals. They owe me $12 million, but I didn't earn it. So I'm going to give it back. Wall Street should be filled with those examples. That's what we need to do, to align ourselves and our interests much more with our communities.
Okay, look, I get where you're coming from. A lot of people, though, listen to what Bill Gross is saying or read what Bill Gross wrote. This is in his investment outlook of all things, and say the man's onto something. And I'm going to quote him again because he says today's rock bottom yields, and he's going more for the financier here, however, have less to do with disinflation and more to do with providing fuel for an asset-based economy that promotes unsustainable wealth creation and a false confidence in perpetual gains. He is attacking the foundation, in his mind, of modern finance, namely that you keep interest rates as low as you can, you keep inflation expectations as low as possible to allow the people at the top of the pyramid to enjoy an inflation in asset prices while the people at the bottom of the pyramid, the savers and the workers, get ripped off.
Really hard to argue with both the logic and the implications of that. I would point out that he's boxing himself out of a tough corner. PIMCO is primarily a fixed income manager, and it's absolutely true what Bernanke's policies are pursuing is taking from bondholders and savers and reinflating the equity side of the economy.
You know Bill Gross, you know Mohamed Al-Arian, his co-CEO at PIMCO. Is this really altruism? Is this Bill Gross having an existential crisis? Or, because when you get to the end of this investment outlook, you have to wonder to yourself, is this just Bill Gross short treasuries talking his book?
It's a little bit of both. You know, we have a number of examples of leaders in society like Bill Gates, right? He's decided that, like Mahatma Gandhi suggests, let's be the change you want to see in the world. I think Bill Gross has a tremendous opportunity. If he really wants to do something about the evils of finance, he has no better bully pulpit than the one that he has to bring those changes about.
So what's the next step? What should Bill Gross be writing in his next investment outlook for PIMCO that picks up where this leaves off?
I believe, and actually the Pope has written, Eric, that finance needs good people. In fact, there's no chance for solving poverty and disease in this country without, believe it or not, stock and bond markets. We need capital markets. I think Bill Gross could occupy a very, very important position in this ethical center, what do we do about infrastructure finance? What do we do about microfinance? There are any number of challenges that could directly impact the human experience. Let's have great financiers turn their time and attention to those challenges.